Hello everyone and welcome to another video around fundamentals of programming. Today we'll be talking about classes in Java. So classes are basically the blueprint using which you create your objects in Java as well as in any other object-oriented programming language. And objects are basically the real-world representation of uh, of those constructs that you are building. So as part of classes, we will be covering some of the key attributes or components of the class, which are the attributes. Those are actually the key features that are part of those classes. Then we'll be talking about the methods, which are basically the actions that you can perform uh, as part of that class over those attributes if required. Then we will be talking about the constructors, which are basically uh, the methods, specialized methods for initializing those class attributes when you create an object. And we'll also be talking about encapsulation uh, as part of classes and what are the best practices of keeping those attributes private and then only expose them through the set of getter and setter methods. So let's deep dive into the code and then start learning by taking some of the real examples. Here you can see we will start with creating a basic class. So what I have done here is I have created a basic class called person just to give you an example of how a class is being set up, how we define those attributes, as well as methods. So as I was mentioning before, the key part of any class would be a list of attributes. So if we talk about person being a class, a person would have some of the key attributes such as the person would have a name. So we can just talk about name at a high level. We don't have to go too much into detail about the first name, last name, and so on. The other key thing that you probably would associate with a person would be the identifier, like a social security number or a text number or any other identifier. So it would be more of a identifier that we can call right now. And there would be some other attributes like the person might have a gender. So we can talk about having string gender as an example, and so on. So there are just a few examples that I have put together here, just for the reference purpose. And then the other key part would be, so these are basically the set of attributes that you see. So let me just put here attributes. The next thing would be the methods uh, or the actions. So if you talk about person, a person can do a lot of things. A person can talk, a person can walk. So we can talk about some of the methods like uh, talk, walk, eat, etc. Let's make them identified as public. I will uh, tell you guys how and what are different type of identifiers in probably in the next session. But for now, just since we're focusing mainly on the class right now, we'll focus mainly on the class components part. So these are a couple of items, and the third one is a set of constructors. So constructors are nothing but the specialized methods which are used to initialize those specific attributes as part of the creation of the object from a template. So class is nothing but a template which is used to create those real world objects. So constructors are similar to methods. The only difference is the constructors have the same name as the name of the class. So in this case, if you see we have a class name as person, so I would create a constructor with a person name, and then you can have multiple constructors and you can overload them. And to understand how what is method overloading, you can reference to my other video around the Java methods and overloading to get a better understanding. But here I will just go ahead and then create a default constructor without any attributes or And then I will also create one specialized one, which will take these three attributes in case I want to initialize them. And then I will just go and call them as the same uh, with the I referencing them as internal. So I just say I uh, string I name, then I have long I identifier, and then I have string uh, I gender. So the other thing that you can do here is since we are getting these inputs, I can just go ahead and then set those properties here. So I can just say this dot. So this is used to reference to those attributes that are part of this class. So this dot name means the attribute that is here, which we defined above like string name. So I can just say this dot name equal to I name, this dot identifier equal to I identifier, and then this dot gender equal to I gender. So this way you can initialize those elements or attributes as part of the creation. And then for the actions, you can just go and then define your own way. Like I can just say talk, and you can just go and then depict the behavior. I don't want to go too much into the detail, but I can just talk about talk fast or slow, etc. just to show the attributes. Uh, And then the other key thing that we talked about, the concept of encapsulation. So one thing here is, if you see all of these attributes, these are default attributes. I want to keep them as private or local attributes so that they are not accessible uh, outside of this class. And keeping them private means even when we talk about inheritance, this being a superclass, these variables will also not directly be accessible from a child class. So that's the best practice. And encapsulation is a concept that talks about making sure that your attributes are encapsulated within your class and only accessible through the way or mechanism which you define, and that's mainly through the methods or the get or the getter setter functions that we create. So I will show you how to go and create those, and that's pretty simple. So what you can do is within Eclipse ID, you can just go and then right click on that attribute. You can just say refactor, and then that way you will be able to go and then see uh, how to go and then create a getter setter by default for those. So here, if you see, I went through to the right click on that, and then I say encapsulate field. So what it will do is it will just go and then automatically create a getter and setter function. So if you want to just go and then set those values from outside or get or do both, you can just go and then check both of these or one of them, and then it will create automatically those getter setter methods. So the identifier you can also define there. If you see the identifier was private, so I just will change here to public, but you can just set it there. So this way, instead of exposing these variables directly, you will expose those through these getter setter methods, and you can just go and create the getter setter for all of these pretty quickly by just going to refactor and then going ahead and then say encapsulate field and create those methods. Let me do quickly for the last one too. This one is going down. Let me just go ahead and here we go. So all of these, if you see, all of these getter setter methods are created here at the bottom automatically without us doing anything. Now the next thing what I will do is I will show you how to create an object of this class. So if you see here, the class name is person. I will go to my main class here, and then I will start to create an object of this. So like I mentioned before, object is basically a real world uh, execution or implementation of the actual blueprint or template that you created, which is called a class. So what we will do is we will say person, and then we'll say person object. I will just say obj, and then I will just say new person, and then this will create that person object. Now here, if you see, one thing that to consider here is that when you create a new person, this is where you define what type of constructor will be called. So in this case, since you haven't provided any value here, it will create a person object with utilizing the default constructor that we created before. Whereas if you want to go and then create a person object uh, by supplying those values, I can go and supply the values like the first was the name, the second one was the identifier, a long 1, 2, 3, and then the third one was the gender, such as male. So this will actually go and then create a couple of objects for you, and then the first one will utilize the default constructor. The second one will utilize the uh, actual constructor, which has three values. So this doesn't print out anything, but I will just go and then show you how to access those attributes as well using the getter set methods that we had. So as part of this constructor that we created, we used and created the object. We set all of these values for those three attributes accordingly. So what I will do is I will just take object 2. I will get the value for different attributes that are there. So if I do obj2 dot get name, this should give me John Doe because that's how I initialized uh, that that name. So let me just run it quickly and then see. So see, this John Doe was returned. Similarly, if I try to go and then say get identifier, this should return. But I think the catch here is since we created those as private, so that's where you don't see it. So one thing what we have to do is we have to go back here and make sure that these other methods are also defined as public instead of private so that we can access them there as well. So I will just call them out as public, and then we'll go back to the main class, and then they should be available here. See, I was able to see the get identifier and then also the gender. So if I do a get identifier, it should give me this 1 to 2, 4 to 4. So see, this was being returned. The same way, just to show you how the methods are being called, you can just go and say obj2 dot, and then you can call those methods that we had created like walk and talk. So see, this was the method that we created, walk, and then we had printed out some value here in this method too. See, fast or slow. So this should be returned as part of talk. Sorry. So I can just say talk and then see if it returns that value. See, so I was able to see fast or slow. So this is the way you access them through encapsulation. We covered how to go and then make sure that only through the getter setter methods the values are being available to be set or get. One other thing I can just quickly show you is if you want to go and then set attributes after the constructor or the object creation, you can always go and then use the set identifiers which we created, and then you can set those names as well. And then you can always go and retrieve those. So I will just show you through this object one how the values are being returned to. So I will just say obj1 dot get name, and this should return me the name John Loy that I mentioned. See, this John Loy was returned. So that's pretty much it from the classes perspective. I hope you like the video. Do make sure to like